Hello everyone. I hope you guys are having a great session so far. So I'm here today to talk about generators in Python, and I'm just going to unfold them. Uh, so j- let's just start. But before that, just a quick introduction about me. Like myself, Shishir. I'm working as a software engineer at Snap Engage, and I can be reachable at LinkedIn, GitHub, and Twitter. So let's just start. But before that, I just want to give a quick disclaimer. So this concepts are just from the Python, and I would be using Python codec samples in my talk, and also just bear with me. Like if you guys know some basics, they are just going to really help us to unfold this things. So let's start with loops. So as we all know, we in our day-to-day activities, we have lots of repetitive collections or the series all around us, and we really need to go over them to get the items and do the things with them. So one way of going or running over them is using loops. So we use while and the for loops for running over this repetitive collections. And if we just see them in a programming example, so what I have done here is I have taken a list of colors. So this color is is of my list type, and I'm just iterating over them through an integer indexes. So if you see, I have declared a while loop here, and I'm using a while loop on the colors and then going over them. So now this just works fine. I will just get the list of items, right? But now what if I just change my data type here? Like instead of list, I just use a set. So as we all know, set is something where we have a unique data, and here I'm using a set with the while loop. But I think this will also work fine. So let's see how what it does. Oops, we got an error here. So it says while, so it looks like while doesn't works with set. So should we use a for over here? So let's look at what this for gives us. So it looks like for just worked for us. And are we really going to talk about this in a ongoing series, ongoing talk? So it's not about that. But basically question is why did the for loop work and why didn't the while didn't work for us? So if we look at our data types in Python, so all of the data types in Python which you want to run over a loop are a type of iterators. And this, and when we gave a set to an for loop, it just worked because it just considered the set as an iterator and it went over it. But when we gave it to a while loop, it says a set is not index subscriptable, and the reason behind that is it's an iterable. So if you look at a for loop in Python, it's not actually a for loop. Behind the scenes, it's more than that. It's actually it is taking an iterable object from us and then returning the element from that iterable object one by one. But again, if you just see here, what I'm doing is I'm just passing a color as a set to my for loop, which is an iterable, and then I'm printing that color object in my for loop. But if I just say it's an iterable, right? What does the iterable means, what really they are? So it looks like iterables are some kind of objects or the classes which we define, but those classes which implements the specific methods or methods like get item and iter methods built in. So dunder get item and dunder iter methods are the built-in methods in Python. And if our object implements that, then we say that it's an iterable. So let's try to implement, let's try to implement our own iterable. But before that, as I told, list was one of the iterable, set was one of the iterable. So this two types of the two types of data types have their own implementation of their iterables. So, and that's how we are also defining our own iterable. And how we have done that is I'm just declaring a class. In that, I'm declaring a constructor which takes a value from me and a limit. So what I want to do achieve from this is when I gave a value, I just want to loop over that value until I reach that limit. So that's what I'm doing in my get atom. So if you look at my get atom, what I'm doing is like, I'm just checking the condition for my index. If my index is greater than 0 and it's less than limit, I just return my value, or else I raise an index error. So this, if I give to my for loop, this works. But I'm not still convinced, or you people might not be still convinced, like what's really happening here. So before that, like if I just say about like get atom or iter methods, like how do we implement them? Does really this code needs to be there? Not really. Like we can have like our own implementation inside these methods, but like they should follow some rules. Like get atom in Python, like built-in get atom method in Python says that the atom should be the whatever iterable or the data you are passing, it should be integer subscriptable, which means like it must be following sequence semantics, and my iterator method should return me an object, which is an iterator object. So now, like we know, like we can implement our own custom things in this get atom and iter method until they follow the rules. But why do we really require this get atom or iter methods? So when I say like when we pass an iterable to an for loop, our for loop should know like what are the methods available over that iterable so that I get an atom. So those methods are nothing but the get atom and iter method, because those are the built-in methods, and that's why our iterable needs to follow that protocol. So when we pass a iterable to a for loop, my for loop gives me an iterator object or a get item out of it, and my iterator now knows what's the next item over that loop or over that data. So, and that's how I get the item out of a for loop. But still, like there is, now I just told you iterable, and now I'm just speaking about iterators. So what are those, or how they are related to iterables? So iterators, so when I ask a question to a iterator, what are you iterator? So iterator says me like, I'm an object implementing an iteration protocol. I said, okay. Now, like again, like, and then it told me like, I'm doing a lazy loading and I just do not hold any values upfront. I said, okay. So then I understood, like when I get an object, when I pass it to an iteration protocol, I get an iterator out of it. But then what's the iteration protocol? So remember, as I told, like we had an iterable which implements some set of methods. So in the similar way, the iteration protocol is consisting of some built-in methods which needs to be implemented by this object to get an iterator out of it. So this built-in methods are the next method, which returns me the next element. And whenever my data or whenever my collection is exhausted, it should raise some exception, or it should return some error to me. And that error is nothing but a stop iteration error exception. And it has an iter method, render iter method over it, which says like, which returns itself. Itself means like it returns the object reference again. So that's how the iterators are. Now let's implement those. So last time I implemented repeater using a get atom, but this time I want to implement it using an iter method. Now this, if you look at the iter method, it's returning a repeat iterator, which is not defined yet. So, but it takes the value and a limit. Now, when I like implement the repeat iterator, it looks like this. So it takes a value and a limit, but also at the same time, it initializes a counter in the constructor itself. So this counter is now responsible for keeping a track of the next element in the collection of data. Now, if you look at my next next method implementation, it seems fairly clear, like my counter is being checked against the limit. And if my counter is like greater than limit, I'm just saying like I am exhausted out of the list and I will stop there. So this is how the iterators are created. So we had a iterable. We created an iter method inside it, which returns an iterator for that. And that iterator we defined by ourselves. So this is how it looks. But now, if I don't use a for loop, how am I going to, like go over the iterators? So because since we have the next method on our iterator, we can fairly use the next method or next, we can fairly simply call the next method and we can get the element out of it. So this seems like quite related. So what we are doing here is like I created an object out of my repeater, which I got an iterable out of it. And then by using a repeat underscore iterator, I got an iterator out of it, which I'm putting it my repeat iterator. And when I call the next element, I have the access to the collection now. So that's how it looks. But still, I'm not convinced like how this works with for loop. So if I just show you like how it looks like a for loop, like what we did was we had a repeater, which is an iterable. We passed it to an for loop. Now for loop created an iterator for us using a repeat iter method. And out of that, I'm getting a repeat iterator. Now remember, this iterator has the next method which knows which element to print. So when I call the next method, now when my for loop calls the next method again and again until it raises an exception, I get the items. So this is how the for loop works in Python. But seriously, are we really talking about like loops here? Not really, but like this will definitely help us to define what generators are or to unfold like the generators here. So what are generators? So generators are just a simple functions, but like instead of returning, so this function, instead of returning the value at the collection of value at once, it returns the value in a series by series way, in a sequence by sequence way. So when I say series, how do those functions do that? So basically what generators do is it takes the collection of items, it uses a next method which we defined in our iterator, and at the same time when it returns the next method, it pauses the function. They just suspend them, and when they suspend them, they whenever we make again a call to a generator, they know from where to start. It's just like they are not just going to sleep, but like they are just suspending them, so that like whenever I make a next call, it knows from where to pause because they have that program counter being remembered in their memory. So basically, if you look at the generators, it fairly uses an iterator plus like customized method. Like customized method as in like they are using they are implementing the suspension of the whole function, and also at the same time they are having the access to the next element of the collection. So that is why we call generators as iterators plus yield method. Now, just let's talk about like more about yield keyword. So yield is the culprit here who does all the things like suspension, then holding the value, and also at the same time implementing the iteration protocol for us. Just by using a single keyword, like it is doing a multiple things for us. And when I say multiple things, like it is creating an iterator object for us. Also at the same time, it is creating an generator object, which is nothing but the collection of set of data structures which just knows like where to start the function, where to pause the function. Now when I pass an iterable to a function, now this function, like in this function, it's not a normal function. Now how does the function knows like whether I'm a generator function or I'm a normal function? If instead of using a keyword return, if we use the yield keyword there, now my function knows I'm a generator object, and hence that function behaves like a generator and gives us a generator object out of it. So now this generator object, which is an iterator, plus it can execute, suspend, and return the value for us. So that's what generators are. So let's define our own generator. So if you see here, what I have done is like I've created a function which takes two values, like a value and a limit, and I'm just looping over that value, but I'm not returning the value. I'm using a yield value here, which actually holds the value and suspends the function. And after that, like it knows from where should I, resume the things. So when I pass the repeat hello and 3, so at the first time, it just creates the generator object. I'm not starting anything yet. But when I call next over my repeat, it makes a call to a next method, remember our iterator, and then it gives me a hello back, and also at the same time it suspends my function. And as I have passed here 3, it will work. It will go for the 3 elements, and at the 4th element, it will just raise an exception for me, saying that I'm exhausted, I'm out of values. But let's take a deeper look by like visualizing something, so that even we get a better hold over this. So how does this even work? So what I have done here is like I have created a visualizer. So here we have a function which is a generator. It's the same thing like the previous which we have like given, but instead of passing 4, I'm just passing 2 because like I don't want to get exhausted of the frames. So here when I just put next, our main so on my right hand side I have the frames and the objects. So frames is nothing but the call stack, and the objects are the heap areas where my objects are allocated and the memory is being put up. And on my left hand side I have the 2 indicators. One is like the red indicator indicates like which is the next line to execute, and the green is something like which just tells me where I was previously. So that's how. Let's just go through the line by line what is happening here. So when I defined a repeator, it actually created a function for me, but this function still doesn't know whether I'm a generator function or not, because it's just a function definition there. Now when I actually make a repeator call by passing the values like hello and 2, it created a generator object because this got parsed, and it know that it's a yield there, yield keyword. It interpreted yield keyword, and hence the reason it created a generator instance for us. Now this generator instance have the type of data structures which can hold a value, which has the program counter from where to execute next, and that's how our generator instance will look. Now let's make a call to a print. Now let's analyze what happens. Like when we called next repeat here, if you see, like I just passed 2 and hello to this, it came to while loop, the condition is okay, so it will go to the yield. Now when it came to the yield, the magic happens here. So it returns the value, but if you see, it doesn't goes to the 4th line, it just suspends between 3 and 4. Now how it is getting suspended is like it just remembers the next program counter, which is 4, and it just puts itself on the hold, like the call stack is being removed, like popped up, and it returns the value. So we see like we got hello, but at the next time what happens is like when I make a next call again, it doesn't goes to the while, because like now my program counter knows from where to resume. So it knows like I need to resume from the line between 3 and 4. So it resumes from 4, it decreases the limit. If you see that the limit will get decreased now 1, and it will again go to the loop. And once it comes here, like it will like again like the normal checking will happen, the normal value will return, and again it will push the program counter as 4, sorry. So this happens, okay, and we get the value. But now since we resume from it, our integer got decremented to 0, and now we are kicked out of a while loop. But once we get kicked out of a while loop, this will return, this whole function will return the none type to a generator, and once the generator gets the none type, it will raise an exception for us, because it says I'm just exhausted, I got kicked out of a loop, and I don't have any value, so I need to raise the exception there. So we should be getting a stop iteration exception, and that's how we got it. Okay, so this is all like generators like working in background, but my question is like, where do we really use this, right? So let's consider a problem wherein like like we are giving a large list of numbers, and from this list of numbers we need to go to every number and see whether if it is an even, we need to calculate the square of it, and we need to push it to another list. So problem seems simple, right? Like we can just do a traditional approach, use a for loop, use a list, put all the numbers into that list and return those lists. This is fine up till like we have really small numbers. But what if like like I really pass a large number? What happens if I pass this number? Surely I'm going to get the output, right? But I don't want this outcome as well. So let's look at, like, if we just want to avoid this, let's look at how a generator approach will work or look like. So here what we did is, like, we just yielded a number. Instead of returning it, we just yielded it. And when we yield it, remember a call stack, it will just get resumed there. It will just get pause and it will return the number. But on the next call only, it will move to the second number. It will, and then after the next call, it will move to the third number. In such a way, it will just move. We are just not getting the whole like list at one single time. We are just incrementing it in a slowly way, like in a lazy fashion. So that was generator says. So when when I did a profiling over these two approaches, I got up with these numbers, like, which seems really like, which makes sense me to, and which told me like why to use generator. So if you look at our memory usage for the list approach, it was like around 2000 megabytes, and for the generator approach, it was like just 2 MB. And the reason behind it was because, like, we are just not getting the whole list at one single time. We are just getting one element and a next pointer to it. So just think of this linked list, right? Like how we have, like, we just get to the first node, and from first node we need know where to go to the second node. But second node is not on a memory. It just like it's just making a node on the fly, and we are just going to a second node. So this is how, like, the generator works in real. So I just don't, so basically from here, where to go next? So there are a lot of things going in the Python community nowadays regarding the generators and coroutines. So yield keyword is just not taking about input. It's about like, it's just not about giving output, but it also takes the input. So when it takes the input, we called it as a coroutine. And since like Python is really like, it just one, it says like, we need to get rid of number of lines. So that's where, like, instead of writing our own generators and coroutines, like implementing them using a yield or this keyword, we use async and await. By just defining a single line, you just declare a generator or a coroutine. So that's, like, you can go from here, and this would be a really a good foundation for you to start looking into, like, what are generators or coroutines and how can you utilize them. So yeah, I think that's it for today. Like, just let me know, like, if you have any questions. I think it's me. Oh, okay.
Thank you again for the talk. And this is really nice introduction and such a nice journey and beginning to the generators in Python. So what we're gonna do next? We have some minutes to wait for the questions, and then
Yeah,
we will try to answer them. If not, we will gather the questions and send them directly to you.
sure.
Yeah, I need to mute myself again because my home automation turned on the ventilation system and it's pretty loud.
Okay.
Garage. Okay, look forward for the feedback or any questions. Oh, we got one. Do you know if there any concept exists to other programming languages, like the generators and other programming languages?
So yeah, like, I'm not quite sure about like the number of languages, but there are surely, like, in Java, generators are coming into picture. There are already coroutines in, like, Java, and Go is actually built upon Go routines. I just, like, Anna, like, mentioned right in the previous talk. So lot of, like, things are going around these generators and coroutines in the other languages as well, because, like, they just see the power, like, like, of not getting the data at once, but like incrementing them over a period of time. So yeah, I hope that I answered.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice feedback from the audience. Okay, we still have time, so please write the questions.